Welcome to Gay on Purpose podcast. My name is David DeVore. Today, I'm going to be interviewing one of my good buddies, Paul Oakley Stovall, who is a brilliant playwright, actor, singer, director. He does it all. Welcome, Paul. I wanted to start with your history in terms of childhood and when you began to realize that you were different or gay.
There was one particular incident, and I was 10 years old. It was Halloween, and my brother was 5 years older. So my parents went to it was on a Saturday, Halloween fell on a Saturday that year. My parents have a bowling league. So they were like, we're going to go. We usually make you guys go with us. But, Jay, you're 15, and so you can watch Paul. I know you guys want to go trick-or-treating. And we were living in the suburbs by this point, so they felt it was very safe, and it was very whatever. But we hadn't planned a costume, and I kind of was acting like I didn't really want to trick or treat. So they were like, well, good, your brother wants to, so stay in that great.
Right.
So my brother went. I was supposed to just tag along with him, but I didn't. And you know how kids are.
Mhm.
He's not supposed to leave me alone.
Right.
But he wanted to go.
Yep.
So he went, and he said, you just don't freaking do anything stupid. I won't take that long. I want to go outside and get some candy for us. And that is when I walked into my mother's closet.
Mm.
But here's the thing. I didn't do like the flamboyant, I'm going to put on, I had my natural little fro.
Mm-hmm.
I put on a dress that she often would wear to go to work teaching. I didn't really, I maybe might have put on a little tiny something. I went dressed as my mother for Halloween in her daily actual self.
Right.
I put on oranges and I tried to get the exact right size. And I grabbed one of her purses that was, I grabbed one of her work purses, not her party purse.
Yeah.
And I went walking down the street as Joyce Marie Oakley Stovall.
Wow. And what was that?
It wasn't kind of like a costume. It was more like, it was a part of me because she's a part of me and I'm a part of her. So I was sort of slipping into something, not like dressing up as a princess. Do you know what I mean?
Right. Yep. I definitely do.
And it was jarring to me because something in my 10-year-old mind convinced me that this was going to be fine. That everyone would know, oh, he just loves his mom and he is dressing as his mom, and I was going to be so smart with my answer, just people wouldn't guess what I am and say, it's actually a lot easier than you think. It's my mother. Got beaten up so badly. I got beaten up so badly that I felt lucky that my face didn't have bruises, but it was just ribs and kicked and, things thrown at me. And I rushed home and tried to clean the dress and put it back. To this day, I'm sure my mom knew something happened, but she never asked. I maybe she didn't because I reached far back in the closet. Back then, you keep everything even when you didn't need it anymore. You kept all your dresses. You kept, but just mothballs in the back of the other closet.
Yep.
And that's when I knew, because I wasn't the kid that got beat up. I was athletic and, played on the teams and with the kids in the neighborhood. I was the kid that got along with everyone. My mom was the house that all the kids wanted to go to because she was the cool mom in the neighborhood. Back then, a sprinkler was her swimming pool.
Mm-hmm. Yep. We did that.
We didn't even have the thing to slide on. We just ran through the sprinkler and slid on the grass. So we were covered in blades of grass and got under the sprinkler to peel them off and started touching each other and both realized that we were excited.
Mm-hmm.
And we carried on this affair for 4 years, but never spoke to each other about it until one day and we had the same birthday. No, I'm 3 days older. One day it was near my birthday, just after, right before his or something. We were down in my basement fooling around, and he just said, do you think we're gay? And I said, I don't know. Now, over the years, that has resonated with me like, oh, that was the moment I discovered I was gay. But as I get older, I feel like he was so progressive and didn't know it that because I wanted my answer to be, I don't even know what gay is. I know that I like being with you.
Mm-hmm.
Because I liked him for more than just the stuff we did.
Right, exactly.
We were inseparable
You had an emotional connection to him.
in the best way. And so as I look back on that question that he asked me, I think we both knew that my I don't know meant it doesn't matter.
Mm.
That's what it really meant. Right?
That's pretty progressive for that age.
But I don't
Right?
think either of us knew how progressive we were. We
Right.
really didn't know the answer because I think
Yeah.
maybe he had heard the word, you got to understand. Well, this is the age where the F word really like the N word. Like,
Mm-hmm.
this was the dazed and confused years. This was
Yeah.
somebody calls me that. You're a burnout. You're an N word. That was serious business.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so he was conflicted and was asking me what I thought. In retrospect, I think that's where he was sort of worried because he had these two older Polish brothers who soon after got him a date for the prom. And I actually never communicated with him again.
Mm-hmm.
Until years later, when I wrote Immediate Family, my play that Felicia Rashad is directing, or has directed and is directing again soon. One of the characters, any writer's first play usually is sort of semi-autobiographical or has some elements because you write what you know.
Yes, definitely.
And I was writing all kinds of things. I was sort of in the groove. And I had to reach out to him because I thought that he might recognize our story within parts of this play.
Right.
And I didn't know where he was in life. I didn't know anything about his life. I knew that if the play became a hit in Chicago at the Goodman Theater, there would be people from the suburbs that I grew up, that he and I both grew up with, who would come and see it and be like, wait a minute.
Right.
I know who that is.
Yeah.
So I reached out to him. I found him on Facebook, good old Facebook that has one or two good reasons for existing, and that's it. And he said, it's fine, just don't use my name. And I started looking in his Facebook, and he had a wife, had just had a kid.
Mm.
He's now divorced from that wife, and he has reached out to me more now, and we text a lot now. And like his mom is retired in Arizona, and I took her to see Hamilton and treated her like a queen, and she couldn't believe what little Paul Stovall had, done. And he asked about my mom, and I don't know what's there, but we're planning to get together this summer.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think it would be awesome just to reconnect with them anyway
Just
after all the time.
Absolutely.
What's going on?
Because of that question at 15, there's more to us, and we both know it.
Yeah.
There's more to us than just,
Right.
are you closeted or am I, whatever,
Yeah. And it kind of goes to show that the power of the heteronormative narration that we grow up with, that we're programmed with, sometimes it supersedes the truth of our sexuality just out of fear, and a lot of people, especially our age, have gone down that path of getting married, having children, and then realizing, or maybe they always knew that they were gay, but then coming out later in life. And some of the guys that I work with are in that situation, which I think is very common and very sad.
Yeah, he's had an entire life, and I hope he's not living with regret.
I was curious about, when you went out Halloween, the story that you told me, and you got beat up, and you went out thinking, "Isn't this funny? I'm going to be my mom. I have answers thought up and everything." And was it a shock to you then that you were attacked for it, or was there any part of you that thought, "Is this dangerous for me to wear my mom's clothes at that age?"
Absolute shock. I remember thinking, because it was dark outside. I was 10 years old,
Yeah.
The things you make up in your mind that are going to keep you safe, and then get stripped away. It's still bewildering to me that I thought I will walk out. No one will even ask me because I'll just be a kid trick-or-treating.
Right.
I didn't understand that the word was spreading through the neighborhood. Paul is on this street, walking down the street, trick or treating. Adults opening the door are like, I didn't even see any of that
Right.
because they were trying to be like, I'm going to have to call Joyce tomorrow, or where's your brother? Some of them did say, where's your brother? And I'm like, oh, he's over there. I didn't even know where he was, but, so then they would be like, okay, he saw you. They didn't say this, but they'd be thinking, okay, so if he saw you dressed like this, then.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, when, what were their names? Like, I can't remember people I met last week, but these names are burned into me.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Who
I have
came
guys
after
like
me.
that too.
But it was vicious. And it was a surprise. It was a surprise. They didn't come at me like, hey, it was like the next thing I knew. And these are other 11 and 12-year-olds and 10-year-olds. So the brutality was, I don't think they understood how brutal they were being.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
15, 16, 17-year-old, they knew what kind of harm they're inflicting. And if there's a bunch of them, not to say one of them would make them stop, but they're very aware of what they're doing. So I have a lot of forgiveness actually in my heart for how they were trained,
right,
to think that something's wrong with me.
Exactly.
And that they were going to be the arm of justice to beat that out of me.
Right. That's a really intense level of compassion to have for somebody who attacked you at this stage. But I think that does come from having a more radical sense of self-love and understanding and acceptance of who you are now, where there's, on the journey, as we move through any places that are defensive and traumatic in our sexual journey, in our gay journey, arriving or moving into that never-ending quest for radical self-love and acceptance. And when I see you, I feel like you fully embody yourself as a gay man, and that you working it, like you have an inner dialogue with yourself. You're aware of things as they're happening.
The fourth and fifth things are when I became a very strong athlete in high school.
Mm-hmm.
And I was on the basketball team, the tennis team, the swimming team. And it was that first swimming team in the showers that you can pull out of any movie moment that I thought, oh, this is dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
And there was one kid who I couldn't tell if he was trying to trick me. And so that 10-year-old spidey sense from that incident was always there. But that was when I knew, oh, you're different. This is going to be your life. And it wasn't long after that my family's all watching TV one night and it gets announced on the news that Rock Hudson has this disease called AIDS and that it's killing gay people. And I'm sitting there, my brother and I always sat in front of our parents on the floor watching TV. So I'm sitting there looking at what I think is my future and my parents behind me. Was the worst. That was the worst. That was worse than anything. Just looking at that screen like, oh, I'm going to die. Like it is a death sentence. It is a curse, right?
Yep. I processed it that way too.
Right. And so I went through 16, and then when he separated from me at age 16, maybe he, it was big national news. So maybe he was like, oh, out of here. I know I don't have to be that. I'm not going to be that.
Right.
So my 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 in college was years when I really was away from my parents, scared to death to have a sexual life, but still you're 16, 17, 18, 19. You can't help it. Mm-hmm. So it was a scary time.
Right.
I came out officially late at 21. Late nowadays, I don't know what age you came out, but
yeah, I was 21 also.
I believe that you're not really out until you're out to your family. You may have your, Hector and I and all the, I was out doing the thing with the girls and all that. But if you're not out to your family, it's my personal thing. You're not really all the way out. Mm-hmm. So I, wrote a letter to my parents instead of face to face. But then after they read it, my dad said, come here and we talk face to face. So those were the incidents in my life. And that is also where my radical forgiveness comes, because if God or Buddha or Jehovah Joshua, Allah, the spirit, decided to let me live, then it certainly wasn't to live a life of feeling vengeful and feeling angry.
Yeah.
And then I began to relish in being different. Then I
Mm-hmm.
realized that me being gay was my blessing.
Yes.
I
That's
was seeing a part
beautiful.
of I was seeing a part of our community that was absolutely 100% on board, community based. We help each other. What do you need?
Yeah.
It was beautiful.
How do you think that you got to into that space from the kid who was beat up and who felt rejected and learned to develop resilience? Because there had to have been fear after that incident in terms of, okay, this is scary. I can't be who I am. I have to be on the down low a little bit, maybe, or I need to pretend a little bit in order to survive.
Yeah.
And then in your journey, because you have such a strong sense of resilience and flexibility and compassion for other people, I'm just curious about that journey of discovery for yourself. Did you go through a period of time where you were angry at the world or angry at the other people or wanted to fight back or became cynical? Because I think a lot of times we're sort of in fight or flight as gay men as we're going through the world. Like, are you going to kill me? Are you going to love me? And we sort of develop these fight or flight attitudes where we become cynical, where we become angry and defensive in the world. And we see that a lot. It's curious to me how you became resilient and you could see the beauty in the things that were happening around you and recognize that there was a real gift happening in you being gay.
Ooh. Well, I'd say cynicism actually saved me, and I call it being practical.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it is cynical. I don't know. Maybe it is. I don't want to call it cynicism, David. I want to call it survival instinct.
Mm-hmm. It is
That
survival.
it's survival instinct that I realize that whatever comes at me, I can handle it. But the flip side of it is I had a very acute awareness of how temporary life is.
Yes.
Whether it be you find out from the doctor you have HIV, whether it be a woman finds out she has breast cancer but she thinks I can beat it, whether it be your child dies suddenly and you just want to kill yourself. You
Yes.
know, you're the walking dead. You might be alive, but you're not really. So no matter what it is, I had an acute awareness at a very young age that I could be walking down the street and some guy could be having an argument with his girlfriend or vice versa. One of them pulls out a gun, they miss, and the bullet hits you and you're gone.
Right.
Life itself is not emotional the way we are.
Right.
What comes at you is just going to come at you, and you just have to take it and move forward. And that has served me very well in my identity as a gay man.
Yes.
I have these wonderful encounters and affairs. I travel a lot, as you know, and I think about a lot of these people that I have these connections with. I
Mm-hmm.
think they're beautiful and they are temporary and I learn something from it.
Yes.
And
Yes. You and I are the same in that way because
what a
I am
full,
very much the same. Relish these relationships that I have with many different men, different types of
right.
friendships. Some are sexual, some are more intimate than others, but they're all unique. And for me, I guess as I've gotten older, I moved from the whole heteronormative idea of the relationship of my parents and my sisters in terms of a marriage that falls into a category of monogamy to being more open to letting myself evolve and become who I really am outside of those confines.
Well, now it took you longer, and because I've known you forever, and I know when you were in a very committed, as far as the rest of us in the friend circle saw, and maybe before that even as well. I didn't know you before, so you may have had other long-term relationships. I always thought, well, the other hoax in society is that someone like you is beautiful and can get whatever they want, and someone like me is lucky if somebody chooses me in this country that we live in. Now we're getting into the crossing over of race and sexuality in our community, but
Yes.
I've always, in my younger years, 20s and 30s, I was so jealous of someone like you. And then in my 40s, oh, that must be so hard to look that way, to have people just, and you can't sort of step into your own self or it's harder to step into your own self because you look a certain way that is seen as the beauty standard. So I know this is you interviewing me, but I'm curious as to what it was like for you to step out of that and say, I don't want to be seen that way.
I think that in terms of my own experience and being sexually abused by the priest when I was younger, I very
That's
early
right.
began to believe that my value was my body and my physicality.
Right.
And that the reason why people liked me was because of my body. And it became, part of the work that I did in my 40s was the realization that, first of all, I'm not my body, but I wanted to be loved and seen and accepted for who I am, for my talent. And I would even wonder sometimes, like, did that director want to sleep with me and that's why he gave me the role? Or did he really think I was talented? Did they really think I was smart? Are people working with me as a therapist or a coach because they're attracted to me or because they value what it is that I have to say? It's really about the content of our heart. That's one of the gifts of getting older too, is to sort of let go of all of that stuff. You know what I mean? And like, and just get to be an older man who just gets to be wise and peaceful and really be able to just lean into that and enjoy that part of my life, because it can be such a mind game, and then wondering what people's intentions are and what they want. And there's some beauty in the aging process in that way, I think.
See, we're coming to the same place, but from different, you came at it from there of the wondering and the not knowing and realizing that, what, it actually doesn't matter. I don't need to know because it's not my business what you're doing. I got to work on myself. And for me, it was everything I got in my life. I know I got it because I proved and showed that I was the one. And then the problem is out in the social world, I had no confidence because I wondered, does this person think I'm ugly? Are they only with me because they think because I'm tall and black that I'm hung like a giraffe? Am I being sought after now in my 30s and 40s by a subset of people who don't care who I am at all, who just want to take from me physically?
Yeah.
So we arrived at that same place where sometimes I go, it actually doesn't matter because it takes two to tango. So if I'm here, I'm going to have what I want.
Yes.
And so I'm getting to that same place as you, but we're coming from different.
Right. Instead, and recognizing that we only are responsible for ourselves and people's motivations, what they're doing, why they're doing it, which my mind would always go to, like, I wonder why they're casting me. I wonder why this is happening. I wonder why they're being kind to me. You know what I mean? Like thinking that there's an ulterior motive, but it's like to let go of all of that external stuff, which I think is a real big part of the journey of being gay as well, is letting go of the external validation or the external world in terms of their approval, which is really difficult to do, and recognize how little it really matters what's happening out there. But so many of us process that, we give it so much power that it limits us and it holds us back from being the light that we are in the world. And to be really honest, that fear plagued me for a while. It kept me sort of stuck. And I would say that on the deepest level, it was really about shame, and on a deep core level, feeling unworthy. And I'm curious, we've never talked about this, but did you have such a sense of resilience? And I think resilience is a gift that assists so much with shame in terms of having some flexibility and ability to bounce back and ability to see things in shades of gray and not just make rash judgments, but to be able to see the bigger picture and to develop compassion. And I was just wondering, for you, did in developing that resilience, do you think that, was there a pivotal moment in your life that something clicked, or is it just something that developed as you moved through the challenges of rejection and bullying or whatever that was happening, and you just kept saying, I'm getting stronger and stronger as a result of these challenges?
I think that I was sort of banking up resilience as different things would, happen over a good period of my life. Like, I wasn't managing my money well, and I had to keep going back to my parents for money. Things that a lot of people go through, but I expected so much more of myself, right?
It is.
Resilience is more than just, I can get through this. It is
Right.
understanding not that I wanted anything back, but that my spirit and my karma, because karma doesn't mean good or bad things are going to come to you, good karma, bad karma. Karma is just action.
Yes.
What you act will
Yeah.
just bounce back to you. You bounce the ball off the wall, it's going to bounce back into your hand. You
Right.
throw it at someone to hit them, it's going to hurt them.
Yeah.
It's just action.
Right.
So I knew that that's something this person wanted, and I didn't. For all I knew, they wouldn't even care that I did this for them.
Right.
But that space is clean and clear in my life.
Yes.
You
And you
see,
cleared it. Yes.
you see, and you have to clear these things for yourself.
Yeah.
You know, there
You're
are
the only
some.
one who can do it.
You're the only one that can do it. And when you don't feel you have anything to offer or reach out to the person, or there is no way to connect, then you just have to let it go off into the wind.
Mm-hmm. I
Let it
often think
just
of
go.
them. I think of people that I'm having problems with or that I've developed any sort of resentment towards. I try to think of them like in a bright light, like that they're really happy, that they're joyous, that they're smiling, that whatever's going on with them, that they feel relieved from it, and that they're happy and that there's peace. And I find that it's what's really true is that because we live in a culture where resentment and justice and judgment prevails in terms of what's right and wrong, I think that many people become habituated to hold on to those resentments and don't even recognize how toxic it is for us.
Yeah.
Like
All it's doing, yeah.
it's good for me to let it go and to release it for me. It's not letting it's not about the other person. It's all about how we're processing it, and we have a choice on whether we're going to let it become toxic and destroy us, or literally just let it go and say that 5 minutes is over. Goodbye. I'm not holding on to this in my body anymore. It's not going to affect me in that way anymore. And how powerful that is to know as a human being.
And it may seem big in the moment, but you just have to let it have its moment and then let it go.
Yeah. I actually have to say that I say this a lot in the work that I do, but like I think one of the gifts of being gay for me has been that my perspective got to be expanded in such a way because of the challenges of feeling rejected in certain areas, or the internal rejection that I did with myself for so long about being gay, that it created this sort of powerful arc in my evolution that would not have happened probably if I had been straight. I probably wouldn't have expanded, in the way that I have without those challenges. Do you recognize that to be true for yourself in some way?
I do. I see it in my relatives a lot. And I think, wow, you don't question things kind of at all. And it's because you weren't made to question anything. You weren't challenged in beliefs. You went along and you never had to stop and think. I love my journey because every step of the way I've had to, and then as you get even older, as my mother says, don't go with the flow, become the flow.
Right.
I don't know how the flow got there, but I am the flow.
Yes, that we're a part of something greater.
You're a part of the whole thing that's greater.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean you're not being proactive. Doesn't mean you're not feeding into your life and trying to be better and put good art into the world and help people through your therapy work and, make a difference in the world. It just means that you are in the flow. You are.
Yeah. Yeah. And just marveling at the greatness of it and being a part of it and really opening your eyes and awareness to all of this amazing beauty that's around us at all times.
And you don't even need an edible for that. That makes it better. That makes it better. But wonder of it all, how you end up in places and spaces, and just not to waste that. Just to be there, even when it's difficult or unpleasant. Just to be the flow. Don't just go with the flow. Be the flow.